So let's start off with a little poll. Type a 1 in the chat if you were able to read the article in advance and you're ready to go. Type a 2 in the chat if you're like, what article are you talking about? Because I didn't do what I was supposed to do, but you're about to tell me how to do it now. We got a few 1s. Oh, someone's brave with the 2. You can always be honest. So if you have not looked at the article yet, follow this link. I hope that opens for you guys. I realize that's like a PDF link. Might not. If it doesn't open, let me know.
Dismore, just as an FYI, my mouse is glitching. It's wireless, so I can't click on the little chat thing to type.
Okay.
Just as an FYI.
Okay. Great. So you could talk out loud then when you talk. So if you guys can open that, if not, let me know. I can paste a different thing. It doesn't work. Thank you. I'll just paste the actual instructions from Canvas in there, and then you guys can go to it from there. Because the reason I'm doing this now is it's not a very long article. It's pretty short. It's pretty to the point. It's going to generate some interesting discussion for us. So if you haven't looked at it yet, go take a glance at it right now so that you can hopefully contribute to the conversation. Otherwise, the rest of us are going to start with a warm-up question. So, based off of however much you've done so far, which class is the hardest for you so far and which class is the easiest? Go ahead and type into the chat. I'm writing down who's here, by the way, as you guys are doing that, so I'll get to looking at the chat in 1 second. So, math is the hardest, world history is the hardest, math and extended study, biology is the easiest. Okay. English is the easiest for some people. Avid is the easiest for some people. Nobody thinks math is the easiest. I guess that's really what we take away from this. Oh, photography is the easiest. Okay. That seems believable. So, yeah, well, I think easiest and funnest relate to each other. Am I right, guys? When I said easy, you were like, which class is fun? Oh, Bonnie thinks math is easy. Did you hear that, Miss Norander? I'll make sure she gives you harder problems, Bonnie. Okay. So, so good. That was just a little thing to get you thinking, see what other people are saying in your class. I think I got everyone who's here, but let's continue. So today's virtual session, it's not going to be terribly long. Most of the time, we're going to try to keep these to about 30 minutes or less. Although usually they'll probably be around 45, just so you know. We're going to establish the virtual session rules and expectations. A lot of us know them already from last semester. However, it's good to review them. We're going to talk a little bit about the class itself, an overview, what to expect, things that you should be paying attention to. And then we're going to talk about the article that you're supposed to read and the relevance to the course. I prepared some questions for you to answer to get thinking about it. You also should have prepared questions. So we should have plenty to discuss. So, let's start with virtual session expectations. Is your camera on? Hopefully. Let's see. I see everyone's cameras on except for 2 people. Colin, I'm going to take a guess that you probably are still having your weird computer thing with your setup. And I will trust then that it is you, in fact, that I'm talking to and not someone pretending to be Colin. Right, guys, the camera's on so that I know it's you. Sometimes people, you wouldn't believe this, attend a virtual session and then they just leave the room and don't actually learn anything from the virtual session. No, this is for you. I already know this. I'm here to help you on things or get you to collaborate on things. So keep that in mind. This is for you. Participate, right? Everyone's doing a great job of that so far in the chat, answering questions, right? Taking a guess if you're not sure. This is a respectful environment. This is a learning environment. You might be wrong. You might be in a completely different place than we are. That's fine. Say what you think, and we'll address it from there. Ask questions. These can be questions like, can you say that again? Can you repeat that again? I'm confused. Can you elaborate on that? Here's something that was in the lesson that I'm not sure about. A lot of those questions might be things that you could email me personally if it's your own question, right? But sometimes coming to the virtual session with questions can be helpful, right? Especially if you think this is a question other people will have. Also, there might be mistakes in the class, right? That would be a great time to say, hey, I saw this weird typo or this thing that was worded strange. I think it might be a mistake, right? I wrote all the stuff. I definitely made mistakes. So if you find them, let me know. Be respectful, already mentioned, but again, this is a learning environment, right? We're all learning, we're all growing here. Be respectful of each other. Don't think we have to talk about that much more. And then take notes, right? If it was me personally, I would have my own virtual session notes document where I would put the date and I would write notes from each time. Why? Because sometimes we'll cover things that relate to one topic. Sometimes we'll cover many topics. Sometimes we'll do something like today where we talk about this article that sort of connects to a lot of different things we're going to talk about this semester. So it could be helpful to go back and be like, remember when we read that article? Oh yeah, here's the notes I took about that, right? Colin says that he does that. Great. You could also add these notes to your previous lesson, right? You could do them digitally, you could do them by hand. I don't care how you're taking notes, just please write something down. Okay. Course information. So we will do a lesson each virtual session, right? Again, the lessons are going to vary. They might be 30 minutes, they might be 45 minutes. Occasionally we might go the full hour, probably not. Most of the time it's related to the content that you're doing that week. Sometimes there is pre-work, like for today. Pre-work means you have to do something before you come to the virtual session. It's usually not too time consuming, right? It might be a small article that you have to read. Maybe it's preparing answers to questions or something like that. So just be on the lookout, right? I always write in the title, pre-work required, read me first, something, something, something. Miss Norander's here. Okay. DBAs will be done in the virtual sessions. We will have a couple of DBAs. This type of activity that we're going to do today, talking about the article, sort of counts as a DBA as well, right? What is a DBA? It's just you getting an opportunity to discuss the material with me and your peers. Other thing to note, most of the class is written. Module 3 is currently under construction. When it's final, you will actually be creating your own alien civilization. So it's going to be really fun. I just have not gotten time to put all that stuff in there yet. You don't need to worry about Module 3 for a while, right? But if you're working ahead, just know Module 3 is coming. There will probably be about 10 lesson type things within that module that will appear soon. All right, otherwise, the class is pretty straightforward. There's PowerPoints for you to look through. There's assignments related to those PowerPoints, right? There's examples a lot of times. Look at all that stuff. Biggest mistake people make in this class is they rush through, right? And they don't read the directions. And then they have to redo things and they feel frustrated by it. So take your time. There's not a ton of work due each week, so you have plenty of time to read, digest, and do high quality, amazing work. All right, article and discussion. So this article was all about using magnets to heal infections. So these are the questions that we're going to start with, the ones that I came up with, so that I can confirm that you read the article, or at least you have the article open and you're able to skim and find answers to these questions. Hint, hint, for those of you who didn't read it yet. So when we do a discussion for this class, I'm going to be grading you on 3 things. The first thing is, did you do the pre-work? The pre-work was easy this time. Read and come up with 3 questions of your own. Some of your questions might overlap with mine. They might be unrelated, whatever. If you did that, you did that. Second thing is, do you participate during this? That means, do you come up with an answer to one of these questions? I'm going to be writing down who speaks. And the third and final thing is, you respond to a classmate. So you say, yeah, Lane, I see there were 2 assignments due this week. I already did both of them, or something like that, right? So that you're adding on to the conversation. We want this to be a discussion between everyone, not just between you and me, right? So think about that. Is there someone else that you could respond to? Do you agree with them? Do you have more information that you could add? Can you quote the article? Something like that. So if you do all three of those things, you get 100%. If you do some of those things, you get less than 100. So let's start with our first question. What is a biofilm and why is it dangerous? What is a biofilm and why is it dangerous? Bonnie says it's like a plaque on your teeth that has bacteria. Okay, but is it just on your teeth? No, right? So you're right. It is essentially a film, right, or a very thin layer of cells that are bacteria, right? Potentially also maybe a fungus. You never know. Anything that's infecting you. Love it. We got Colin saying it's a bacteria that can erode parts of your body. Good, like bones and teeth. So specifically, it's something that is impacting bone. So teeth are bones and other bones. Different types of microbes that glue itself to a solid surface, sheet of bacteria. When I saw biofilm in the article, I had no idea what the definition of it was. Well, now you know, Michael, so write it down. Thin sheets of bacteria that can build up on implanted metal. Good, so they can build up on metal, they can build up on bone. They are infections that are tiny, thin sheets of bacteria, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so two key things here about the biofilm. You guys are right. It's a thin layer of microbes that are infecting you. It affects bone, it affects metal. Does this happen to anybody? Lane says, my sister had this issue in her back. It's very tricky. Okay, so why would somebody be more likely to get a biofilm? Am I just walking down the street and I get a biofilm like I would if somebody had a cold? Can I pass my biofilm on to someone else? How do you get it? It can be hereditary. Potentially, maybe depending on the type of bones. But Bonnie brings up the answer that I was looking for, which is that this happens after you have a surgery, like a joint replacement. Who gets joint replacements? You when you're 70, right? So this could be anybody. It could affect anybody. Again, it's when you're having a joint replacement. You need a new hip. You need a new knee. You need a piece of metal implanted into your body because you had some kind of problem, right? They said something like 1 to 2% of people with the metal joint develop it. Old people, yes, right? So 1 to 2%, that doesn't seem like an extreme amount of people. But if we're thinking about how many people get replacement hips, 1% of that many people is still going to be a decent amount of people. Okay, so why is it dangerous? Well, because it's an infection, right? It can kill you. Okay, what do doctors use MRI for? Have you ever had an MRI? This is a pretty easy question to answer, especially since it's about you. I'm going to go back. We have so many people participating that it's going to take me a second here to write down who has spoken. In fact, I might have to do it after the session. I'm going to have to print the chat. Okay, so Lane says to view soft tissues. Marissa adds to image internal organs. Colin has not had an MRI. Abigail has had one. Sounds familiar. Yeah, they want you to do one on your brain for epilepsy. Sure, you had one on your knee. You've had two. Yeah, so your MRI is magnetic resonance imaging, I believe is what it stands for. And you guys are right. It's to view tissues and organs, right? So when you get an X-ray, you can see your bones. That takes you 3 seconds, and you get one. What about an MRI? What is it like to get an MRI? Is it fun? Abigail says they're so annoying. It is loud, so loud. All around you, you just hear like noises and like clanking and weird stuff, and you have to be so still. And it takes forever, and you're in a tube. Yeah, it's really uncomfortable. And you have to be still or they can't see it, right? So it's not really the most comfortable thing, and it does take a while. But they're helpful, right? Because if you're having pain and it's not a bone, well, and we don't know what it is, we probably need to use an MRI to see what's happening. Okay, yeah, and of course, it's right after you get in the MRI machine that you have to itch everything, right? You're like, oh, I'm so itchy. And if you move, you have to restart. It's true. Okay, so part of what this article talked about was using electrical currents through metal, right, and using magnets to actually kill bacteria but not harm your tissues or your bones. So they claimed in the article that your tissues don't conduct electricity, right? That's what they said. They were like, yeah, metal conducts electricity, but your tissues won't. I don't know. I kind of have a problem with that statement. What do you guys think about that? Is it true that your tissues really don't conduct electricity? Think about what's in your tissues. Yes, thank you, Lane. Wouldn't your tissues conduct electricity because of the water in your cells? Yeah, right? Your cells are a large portion of water. Your body is a huge portion of water. Guess what else you have in your body? Salt, ions, right? Why do you think it's dangerous for you to be in a swimming pool when there's lightning? Because all those things dissolved in the swimming pool carry electricity straight to your body, which then carries electricity straight to your organs, which then kills you. Right, so your tissues will conduct electricity. Now, will they conduct electricity as well as a metal? Or to walk in a flooded area, great example, right? They probably won't conduct electricity as well as metal, right? For example, a human wire would not really work. And if it did, it would not produce enough power to even charge your phone, right? So not really. Yeah, there goes your weekend plans. Exactly. Creating human wires, kind of hard to do, but you know, you do conduct electricity, right? So that's something to think about here. That was a little bit of a, you know, they didn't really explain that super well. I think partially because they don't want people being like, oh no, I conduct electricity, I'm going to die from doing this. Their concept was that they would do just enough electrical current, right, that it would kill the bacteria but not affect you. And is that possible? I think so. Kind of scary though, honestly. I don't know if I would go for this therapy. So then the next question, and the most important question, comes down to this, which hopefully you were thinking about, and they did talk about in the article. Why don't we just use antibiotics? Somebody has an infection. Why would we want to do some weird magnet, electrical current thingy when we could use antibiotics? We've got two great answers so far. Overused, which we will elaborate on in a moment. And because antibiotics don't directly target an infection. That is an amazing answer, Georgia. Right? When you take an antibiotic because you have strep throat, right? What is infected? Your throat. What gets killed? All the bacteria in your body. Right? So you're killing off all of your bacteria. Now we're talking about old people. Is it a good idea for old people to kill off all their bacteria? Definitely not, right? They're going to get sick, right? They're going to weaken their body by doing that. So they are not specific. There's not an antibiotic that you take that just goes right to the one cell it needs to kill and kills it. Stella's right. They go in your bloodstream. They go all throughout your body, right? And they're able to kill all bacteria, not just the ones you want. Lane brings up a great point as well. Resistance to antibiotics. What does that mean? Right? We're going to talk about that a little bit in this unit because we're talking about evolution. We're talking about things evolving. Well, guess what? We're not the only things evolving. Bacteria are also evolving. And what are they evolving to be able to do? Not die. That's a problem. Right? We used to be able to kill them very easily. It's getting harder. Right? We used to be able to take antibiotics for pretty much any infection that you had that was bacterial. They don't work as well anymore. right? Some people have to take 2 or 3 rounds of antibiotics. Some infections are completely resistant, like certain strains of tuberculosis. No antibiotics will kill it, right? Which means people are going to start dying from things that we weren't dying from for a while. For example, the Black Plague, right? We're all familiar with that, killed a lot of people. Was a bacterial infection, could have been treated with antibiotics. But what if antibiotics stop working? Well, or they only work on some people. Then we're going to be back into that situation where you could die from basically what you think is a cold. The bacteria doesn't get affected by antibiotics, and especially for older people because they've probably taken them. True, right? They have some sort of tolerance at that point because they've probably taken antibiotics many times in their lives. Yeah, so bacteria evolve very quickly because they reproduce very quickly, right? And a huge part of evolution is reproduction. So in the time that we've been doing this virtual session, the bacteria on your skin have already multiplied and divided millions of times, right? That's kind of scary if you think about it, because you're like, whoa, that's a whole bunch of new bacteria that just appeared out of nowhere. You've gotten strep like 10 times in the same year. Yep. And the antibiotics stopped working. Great example, right? They probably had to shift you to a different antibiotic. So this is a real problem that is happening, and we'll go more into why it's happening, how it relates to evolution, and sort of why it's happening, right? Because some of it's evolution and some of it's people. People are terrible at following directions. And some of you in this class, people don't take all the medicine they're supposed to take. They stop taking the medicine when they feel better. Guess what? That ruins it, right? So people plus evolution equals insane tragedy with bacteria and antibiotics. So how does this relate to biology is the final question. If you haven't participated yet or replied to somebody else, this is your opportunity to do that. I'm going to have to save the chat and read the chat to figure out. Because it's your body. Yeah, right, we're talking about infections in something that's pretty common, which getting a joint replacement. It's natural living things, sure. No one's probably going to say this one, but creative problem solving is a huge part of science, right? People are getting these infections. Antibiotics don't seem to be the end-all solution here. So some people sat down and said, well, what else could we do? Oh, why don't we just kill the bacteria with electricity? Right? This could be anybody in the future. Getting a new hip, you get an infection, right? And they heal you with a magnet that they just place right on the infection and none of the rest of your body is impacted. That's a cool idea, right? This is exactly what science is, creative problem solving. This isn't working. How can we do it better? You agree with Lane because it's involving your body. Yeah, right, it is. And biology is not just your body, but a lot of times it is. This semester, we're going to do evolution, classification. You guys will get to see my extreme nerd mushroom obsession come out. You will also learn about body systems, right? And then finally, you'll get to write a paper that'll be pretty open-ended on a bunch of different topics. So really, biology is more than just your body, right? But that is a good starting point. I was thinking the same thing as Bonnie, haven't had surgery, but we will all need it. Yeah, right? So this is something that could impact you. It could impact someone that you know. It's a real thing. You could all get deathly illnesses and get wiped out. Yep. Okay. So random question, do you want to know how smallpox was eradicated? Well, I already know, Lane. But perhaps you can table that because I would like us to talk about it in a different lesson once we know more about the antibiotic resistance stuff. You got bronchitis, you had to take antibiotics, and they worked, but it took forever. Right? Sometimes you'll have to take 2 antibiotics, right? So again, this is one of those things too where 20 years ago, antibiotic resistance, no one even knew what that was and didn't care. Now people are like, oh no, that's bad. this is not working anymore. People might die, right? So in just 20 years, we've gone to being concerned for this. So imagine in 20 more years, right, when you're in your mid-30s, you don't want to die from strep throat. Nobody wants that. All right. You had to take 2 sets of antibiotics because of an infection. Yep. For your paper, can you and Alexis hatch eggs? No. There's 5 topics and they're already outlined for you, Bonnie. Sorry. You'll have to pick within the 5. But you can do that anyway because that sounds cool and you could share it with me. Okay. So, final thing we're going to do is try to summarize this article in 20 words exactly. I know it's going to drive Lane nuts, I can already tell. 20 words exactly. See if you can summarize the article, and if you can do it, we'll have someone share out what they got. And if you can do this, I'll give you bonus points. So take a second here. Think about what the article is about. Go back to the article. 20 words. Summarize. Okay, Colin was close. You need 5 more words. Lane, new age scientists try to eradicate biofilm by using magnetic healing to kill the bacteria in old and new people. Love it. Although new people, what is that? Old and regular people? Young? Okay. Study of a new scientific process of removing infections through use of magnets and electricity, which is a great new technology. Perfect. All right, Lane and Colin, you have received 5 bonus points that you may use for whatever you would like to use. And I wrote it down, so I'll remember that you two, and maybe Marissa, because I see she just posted something, and Bonnie, let's see. Magnetic heating is a new medical procedure for the alternative of surgery and antibiotics. It is a great new technology. I think that was 20. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yes. Antibiotics failing, magnets potential, surgery cases for new joints, less complications, good future, less complications. Whoa, Bonnie, yours sounds like a clickbait news article that I would click on, right? Antibiotics failing, magnets potential. Okay, so Marissa and Bonnie, I'm adding you to the list of people who can have 5 bonus points on anything you want. You can save those. You can use them now, whatever you'd like to do. Stella, the study of being, mainly about if magnets can heal infections by heating up the metal and melt the biofilm. Love it. Stella, you've also earned 5 bonus points. Final call for anybody who's got their 20-word summary. If I end up ending the session before you send it to me, you can always email it to me to get your bonus points if you'd like bonus points. Otherwise, I'm guessing a lot of you gave up on this because you don't care about bonus points, which is fine. I like to give bonus points out. All right, does anybody have any questions about the class, about what we did today, about what's happening? I'm going to do my best to grade the virtual sessions probably tomorrow morning. So if it seems like you were here and I ignored that for some reason, we can talk about it then. Otherwise, nice job. Stella, Marissa, Bonnie, Lane, and Colin getting those extra bonus points, and pretty much everybody else who spoke, because it looks like everyone spoke today, which I love. Otherwise, I will see you guys next week, right? Email me if you get stuck, you need help, anything. All right? Bye.